Welcome to 5-Star Company Culture with your host, Josh Cunningham. In this podcast, we explore how culture is the key to unlocking massive profits and unprecedented freedom. Discover insights, strategies, and inspiring stories to transform your life and business. Here's your host, Josh Cunningham.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the 5-Star Company Culture Podcast. My name is Josh Cunningham. I'm your host here. Today we are joined by Mike Kaeding, CEO of Norhart, which is an apartment developer and management company. Mike, thanks so much for being here today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Certainly. And of course, we've got some more wonderful experience shares and stories to help shine the light on the importance of company culture. Obviously, we get into business to create freedom for ourselves, freedom for our lives, for our family, to be able to do the things that we want to do. And we want to be able to do those things by making sure that we have great systems in place, that we have wonderful talent to execute those systems at a really high level. But all that starts with having a rock solid foundation of a 5-star company culture, which attracts and retains the best talent and delivers those exceptional customer experiences. So Mike's on the podcast today. He's going to share some of those stories with us on how him and his company have done exactly that. So Mike, why don't you kind of take it away and give our audience here a little background story into your experiences and what exactly is an apartment developer and management company? What problem do you guys solve?
Yeah. Well, at a high level, we design, build, and rent apartments, but we're really focused on driving down the cost of housing by solving construction costs. We've already been achieving about a 20 to 30% reduction in those costs. And someday we believe we can achieve a 50% reduction.
Wow.
But imagine what that means. It means someday your rent could be half or your mortgage payment could be half. So that's the problem we're trying to solve is America's housing affordability crisis.
That's awesome, man. You said 20 to 30 already, and the goal is 50%. And so that's not like the three little pigs mentality. You're not just going from stone to sticks to straw, are you?
Not at all. In fact, our newest properties are some of the nicest in the states that we're building.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And what are some of the keys to success in actually being able to reduce costs? I mean, everybody nowadays is talking about inflation and costs going up and everything's just more expensive. So how is it that you're able to go, instead of just moving with the herd and the masses, say, hey, we're going to think a little bit differently, we're going to act a little bit differently, we're going a different direction with this? What are some examples of the ways that you've been able to implement that into your business?
Yeah, culture is a part of it, but just taking a quick step back holistically, if you look at other industries like manufacturing, they've improved labor productivity by 760% over the past 60 years.
Wow.
Agriculture has improved it by 1,500%.
Wow.
But construction, it's done virtually nothing at just 10%. And so we're just taking the lessons learned from these other industries and applying it to our own. For example, in the world of construction, you typically have very different companies coming together to work on one building, a different plumbing company, a different electrician, a different general contractor, different suppliers, and then they leave. See, if construction were to produce a car, you'd have a different company installing the windshield, a different company installing the door, and a different company installing the wheel. And of course, the wheel company, they would call you up and say, hey, I'm so sorry. I got delayed on another project. I can't get out there for 2 weeks. Your line would be shut down. But see, in the world of manufacturers would look at us and say, hey, we are crazy for the way we do things. So we brought all the work under one roof and then enabled some fun techniques. One quick example of that is the assembly line. Right? This revolutionized manufacturing, but in the world of construction and assembly line, how would that even work? You can't take a building and drive it down a line. No. But what you can do is you can take the person and move them through the building. So right now, all of our teams shift by one unit through the building every 5 hours. So you look at the end of our building, and every 5 hours, we have a brand new apartment unit completed. And that one technique takes a 15-month project and drives it down to 9 months.
Wow, that's phenomenal. I used to live in downtown San Diego, and just looking right out the window of my high-rise apartment building, I would see a lot of skyscrapers being built, and it seemed to be a similar process because they'd start at the bottom of the building and work their way up, but by the time it seemed that the top of the building was even done with the exterior, the interior was done shortly after that. So it's probably a similar process where they're doing that sort of assembly line. That's phenomenal. How many different cities are you guys in and representing and housing people?
Yeah, so we're primarily just in Minnesota right now, although we do have some manufacturing capability in Wisconsin, and we're looking to expand into Texas.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we're actually located here in College Station, Texas. That's where Rockerbox is home too. So
nice.
Yeah. What parts of Texas are you looking at?
Yeah, we were looking at the Dallas-Fort Worth area, specifically the northwestern corner for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very exciting. So, before we hit record here, we were kind of just connecting a little bit about talent acquisition, bringing in the best people, making sure that their culture fits, making sure that they're capable of doing the right things, that they believe in what you believe in. So how have you been able to take those concepts and apply it to your industry, hiring the best people to differentiate yourself from the competition?
Yeah, there's so much here. And this actually ties into the most important lesson that I've ever learned, frankly, in business. And that's to hire the very best people. See, the best people, they change things. They unlock doors and make things happen for you that you didn't even know could happen. And the thing that most business leaders are fearful of at this stage is that sounds expensive. And it's true, on a cost per person basis, it's expensive. But what most business leaders fail to understand is that the best people outperform the average by 2 to 5 to 10 times as much. Wow. So instead, if you look at it as a cost per unit produced, the best people are actually your least expensive. When we talk about the best too, we really truly mean the best. We will fly people in from other states to come work during the week and fly them home on the weekend because they might be best in the world at their niche of whatever they're working on. Or another one of our employees in 2007, Steve Jobs announces the iPhone. Steve Jobs walks off stage and our employee walks on that same stage following Steve Jobs' announcement. It's people at that kind of caliber. They change the game. But then the next problem you run into is how in the world can you even find people like that? Especially for us in the world of construction, I'm sure for your company as well. It's really hard to find good construction workers. And if your strategy is to post and pray, well, keep praying. You're not going to find the right person because the best people are not looking for a job. And so we faced the same issue. What we ended up doing, we were about a 100-person company at this stage. We hired on 14 recruiters.
Wow.
14% of our staff were all just recruiters. It's insanity. But what that enabled us to do is we started canvassing the entire market, understanding the best people and all these other companies, and started to build relationships with them before we needed to fill those roles. So we started to know the best people to be interacting with early on. Another key component, I'm sure this is stuff other guests have talked about, but it's to understand your purpose and mission. Because if you don't know who you are, what you're about, and what your values are, how can you set up an organization that's aligned to those values? You can't if they don't exist. And the important thing that I find with values is they have to be true to you. They can be rough around the edges. It can be that you're working 90-hour weeks and that's just your culture that you're creating. That's okay. Not everyone's going to like that, but the key is to define that, spell it out, and that everyone is on the same page with it. Make it really super simple and followed by all. But then the power is you take that and that becomes part of your interview process, right? So every single candidate, you are hiring against your values. We have values. We've got skills-based assessment. But the last thing that we do for a lot of our hires is that we do a trial period. So not all the positions are this way, but many of them are, where you get hired on, but we're not guaranteeing you have a job. You get paid while you're here. But after about 2 weeks, your coworkers come together and they decide whether or not you make the team. What I find is that coworkers, especially A players, they don't want to deal with A minus, B plus, B players. And they will have a very high standard, and they will know better than I will as a manager if you're the right person in the company. So I could go on. There's lots of little things that you pull together like that to help you build the right culture.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, starting with your purpose and making sure that you know what it is that you stand for and what you believe in, and then hopefully magnetically attracting the people that believe in what you believe in is absolutely essential. I want to back it up here. You talked about the recruiting, and I think that's phenomenal. Most people, they're thinking about solving a problem in their business, and their first question is, what should the job, description say? And if that's step one where you're stuck at, then it's going to be a long uphill battle at that point. And I think you share a very unique perspective here of having 14% of your entire staff was recruiters. And what you said was that they went out to build those relationships before you even needed that opening. So, I mean, can you elaborate further on that? What is building relationships? Is that, buying them coffee, buying them lunch, going to social hour? And then when you did need them, was it at that point just making them a job offer and saying, hey, we're going to pay more where you're currently at? Or what gets someone to jump ship for these A+ players? What gets them to jump ship from where they're currently at to your organization?
Well, I think what gets them to jump ship is the culture, the vision of the company, what you're trying to accomplish, the purpose, the mission. It's that sort of stuff. You need to pay top of market. That has to be a part of the component. You can't give them lower salary, but assuming your salary is about right, that's still not enough for them to jump. They need to jump because they care about what you're doing. So you need recruiters that also really care, that show off that culture, the purpose and mission. They can't just say it, but not say it in a way that convinces people that they believe it, right? So we spent probably 2 months of just training with the recruiters, like come on site, meet the teams, connect with these people, engage, right? To the point that they're like, dude, I've seen it. I know what it's like. I know Tom, he's working over here. I know this site. I know what they're doing over there. Like, this is where you'd be. And this is the people you meet. I've talked to them. They're amazing, right? So you've got to get that part right. Within the hiring, so we talked about the most advanced strategy, which is going out and finding and understanding who are out there. And so there are tools out there actually where you can get lists of everyone who works at a company. You get their email and get their phone number, right? So we started with those lists, and we did social media research. So looked on LinkedIn, try to get a sense of who they were. And you just start to reach out and say, hey, we're Norhart. Have you heard of us? Like, we may have some jobs opening in the beginning, later down the road. Can we have a dialogue to see if you might be interested in some of those things down the road? And not everyone says yes, right? It's a cold outreach, but enough do to make it worth it. And then I would say the step down from there is you can get resumes. So people post resumes, and you can go out and find those resumes and start studying those resumes and looking for people that are not looking for jobs. And so that's just another avenue we've been able to find people. And then the last, and the avenue that doesn't work very well, frankly, is posting on Indeed. You can post listings on Indeed and sites like it, and you can pay to get promoted to the top. We do that, but you get a lot of candidates, and that's not where you find your good ones typically, especially the higher skilled, more nuanced positions. It's all about relationships.
Yeah. And I would imagine that, like you said, the reason why you get these A+ people to jump to your organization is because of your mission and your core values and believing in what it is that you believe in. And that's why it's also so critical to think about the alignment that you have with your A+ players. Because I think a lot of times when people are trying to crack the code on talent, they're thinking, how do I get A+ players to join my team? But what a lot of people forget about, and they don't really spend time on, is keeping the A+ players that they already have. And a lot of times the reason why someone leaves is, again, they stop believing in your mission. They start feeling the way that you made them feel early on. And so, people got to remember to take care of your existing talent, to take care of your existing rock stars, and not always be concerned about just going and finding the next, hot hire.
And you have to be authentic. And I think, like, for us, there's sort of a wider world impact. Like, I want to make a meaningful, positive impact in the world by solving housing affordability. That resonates with some people. And it's certainly, it looks nice on the surface. But if
Mm-hmm.
that's not your heart, maybe your heart is to make a ton of money, right? That's just where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
It's not where I'm at, but if that's where you're at, like, be honest about that. There are other people in the world that that's what they're about, right?
Yep.
And you will attract the kind of people that you want to attract. So just be honest and authentic with who you are, and
Yep.
make sure your culture and the people around you align to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that again, another point of confusion there for a lot of people is they think, when you talk about company culture, it's all just about being nice and everybody getting along
Mm-hmm.
and having a ping pong, table in the break room. But you're right, it's about being authentic and
Yeah.
being true to your own values, because you said there's some people out there that are super driven and money hungry and want to work 90 hours a week, and in certain businesses and certain models and where certain people are at in their lives, that might be the perfect path for them. I mean, even myself, when I was young and single and didn't have a family and didn't have a wife and didn't have kids, I had a lot more of that drive and determination to just pour all the hours in the day, all the hours in the night into a project or into a business. Whereas now, I'm married and I have wife and I have kids, and now what drives my purpose and the activities behind what I'm doing is more about creating more freedom, more time around those people, So I'm gonna essentially, people go through different phases in their life. It's about being able to connect with people at the phase that they're at, that you can relate to, and create that synergy together, really.
And think about that. If you're in a manager who is truly focused more on the money, but now you're painting this rosy picture, I might attract you and get you to come to my organization, but you're not going to be happy. And it
Mm-hmm.
becomes fundamentally because I didn't align and be clear about the purpose and who I am. You talked also about losing people.
Mm-hmm.
And what I find is certainly this mismatch in the culture is a key component. Another key component, the reason people leave is because of the interaction with their coworkers and their managers,
Mm-hmm.
right? Getting the caliber of people on that team right. Once you've done that, there's sort of a magic. Like, things really click and really start moving forward. I've seen what amazing teams look like, and I've
Mm-hmm.
become almost tenacious about creating those teams within our company. We're not entirely perfect either. And so if you really want to prevent losing people, make sure you're very proactive about getting rid of people that don't line up with your culture, mission, and values. And for us, we stole this from Netflix. It's called the Keeper Test, where
Mm-hmm.
we ask quite regularly about all of our staff, if a particular employee were to quit, how hard would we fight to change their mind?
Hmm.
If the answer is, yeah, we like them, we're not going to, then we shouldn't have them. See,
Yeah.
the reality is most companies know they want the best. Most companies know they don't want the worst. But where we're different than most companies is we don't want the average, where other companies might be okay with that. And
Yep.
so we're very proactive about letting people go as well, because we want to keep the great teams and the A players on board.
Mm-hmm. Very well said. I like that. The keeper test. That's what that's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Well, hey man, Mike, it's been a pleasure getting to chat with you today and get to tap into all the experiences and insights that you have. If someone wants to learn a little bit more about how they can keep in touch with you, or what type of ways to get more information, which direction would you point them in?
Yeah, the best way is to visit our website, which is norhart.com. That's NORHART.com. And we have two interesting things. One is a new investment platform where we're offering people high rates of interest for money that they invest in our company. And then the second is one of our new shows called Zero to Unicorn. It's about the journey of small business growing to billion-dollar scale. We literally have billionaires as guests. But one interesting recent guest we had was Michael Uslan, who's the originator and the executive producer of Batman. And what's amazing about his story is it took him 10 years from the point that he was able to eke out the movie rights to Batman to the point that he was able to get the Batman movies made. Everyone told him no. Everyone slammed the door in his face, but he kept with it for 10 long years.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Podcast is Zero to Unicorn. Is that spelled out zero or the number zero?
Spelled out zero.
Spelled out zero. All right. So check out that podcast on whatever platform is your favorite to listen on. And again, if you want to go check out some investment opportunities with Norhart, visit their website. Mike, thanks again for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Mike Kaeding, CEO of Norhart, the apartment development and management company. Thank you, Mike. And for our listeners, stay tuned. We'll have more phenomenal guests shedding some more light on how to develop a 5-star company culture and create more freedom and profits in your life. Thanks again for listening. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to 5-Star Company Culture with Josh Cunningham. Embrace these lessons to elevate your business and join the ranks of thriving organizations. Stay tuned for more episodes. And until next time, remember, culture is the key to your success.